crying little.
Yoga.
Island, a silent salute for a sergeant lost to suicide. Yesterday's death makes 5 officers gone since just last month. NYPD Commissioner James O'Neill calls it a mental health crisis.
Depression is real. People need to understand that. This is not, okay, I don't feel myself, I feel down, I'll bring myself out of it.
In New York and in agencies across the nation, more police officers die by suicide than are killed in the line of duty.
Sometimes it's a downward spiral that, unless there's intervention from the outside, it's not going to stop.
For weeks, the NYPD has been aggressively trying to reach its 36,000 officers on social media.
Know that you're never, ever alone. There is always someone that can help you.
Encouraging anyone who needs help to reach out or call or text a hotline. The department planning new training and a peer support program. But even with resources, officers across the country are sometimes reluctant to call, fearing judgment or job repercussions. That's what kept LAPD officer David Swales from finding help.
I wish he would have called. He knew what was available to him.
His wife, Melissa, says she kept his anguish a secret.
He was afraid that if the other officers knew, they wouldn't want to work with him.
They would judge him.
Yeah, that he would become a risk or a liability.
3 years ago, the family was supposed to go to Disneyland on their youngest boy's 2nd birthday, but David had locked himself in a bathroom.
I just still don't understand how we went from planning to go to Disneyland for dinner. Simply having to plan a funeral.
Denise Jablonski-Kay is a psychologist with the LAPD.
This is a population that is very strong. They are reluctant to ask for help. They're reluctant to acknowledge that they're having a problem, and they just kind of suck it up.
All the more reason the push is on now to open dialogue about on-the-job stress and depression before anyone else is lost.
We need to talk about it. We need all members of the police department to understand that to go for help is not a weakness, it's a strength.
Across the U.S., only 3 to 5% of law enforcement agencies actually have specific suicide prevention programs. And this year, there's been a lot of discussion about how to bring more resources to officers.
Okay, I wanted to show that video because I did happen to hear that while watching the news, and I found it interesting because this is something that I haven't heard that's been reported. I have heard about cops having stress on the job, but to be honest, when I heard this, I didn't care one bit. And I know people will say it's cruel, and I know people sit up here and say, you know, it's just a few bad apples. I'm sorry, it's been too many killings and shootings of unarmed people, and there's been too many males with AK-47s and, you know, loaded with bullets and weapons and different high capacity weapons that have killed 60, 100, injured hundreds of people, and they were taken in alive. Some of them were even fed Burger King. So there was recently a video of a white male who I believe did not take his medication, actually called the cops, and the cops was making jokes about him, pressed down so hard on him and gave him a sedative, they killed him. I wonder how that's going to turn out. And the interesting thing about that is it happened right after they decided not to indict murdering cop responsible for Eric Gardner's death. And then this happens. I mean, for people to not see the absolute irony in it, and to think that this happen just on happenstance, you're insane. It happened for a reason, and this is what people are going to learn. When you do something to a group of people, when you allow the attack dogs to attack certain people and you laugh about it and you think it's funny and you make memes and it's hilarious, those same dogs will get used to that behavior, and to fulfill what they're used to and what they like doing, they will bite back at you and attack you. I hear a lot of people who are very sad about that, and there's a lot of people who are saying, he should have complied with the police officer and he shouldn't have been rolling on the ground, regardless of his mental state. Why is his mental state even being taken into consideration? How do we even know that, he wasn't just on some drugs or something? And the police had to do what they had to do to protect themselves. But besides that, these police officers who are committing suicide, there may not be justice that happens within the courts, but you are starting to see a turn where when justice is not held, when they are not held accountable by their own laws, there will be consequences for their actions. And the consequences for their actions seems to me to be cops committing suicide. And they're getting concerned about this. Regardless of what anybody thinks, there's always consequences to your actions. And in the end, when you don't hold yourself or your own accountable, it's going to cost you a lot more than it would have. But I will go ahead and leave it right here. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment, and I will see you in the next one.
But I wasn't